Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tech Club with our wonderful, knowledgeable host, Jim Barnes. He's going to tell us all about the mysteries of passwords, which um, are such a mysterious thing, they're becoming a vexation. Before we get into that, however, we always want to thank the Katzmans and also Capital Federal for their wonderful support of Retroactive. Uh, they're the reason we keep coming to you free with all this wonderful information month after month, time after time. So we are very grateful to them and we thank them very, very much for that. If you are here, if you haven't already muted, if you would please, uh, Jim's got a lot of information for us, and I'm going to watch the chat. And when he takes a breath, I'll try to get your question asked and we'll take it from there. So, welcome. It's a gorgeous, sunshiny day. Uh, so, we're enjoying that as well. But now I'm going to hand it over to Jim Barnes. He is the Public Technology Services Supervisor here for the library. So, he knows a lot. And he was very eager. He said he's got some great stuff to share with us. So, I'm looking forward to hearing from him. So, thanks, Jim, for being with us and enlighten us. We're eager to learn.
Okay. Well, thank you all for having me for another tech club this month. Um, Laura was asking what topic we wanted to cover this month, and this has just been on my mind. I've been talking about this topic with a few patrons here in the library over the last few weeks during the technology one-on-one appointments that we do, and people have a lot of
Okay.
questions about it. And so I find it difficult to answer the questions because there's just so much to know. And so I decided to dive in and research the topic a little more. And in the process, I thought, what better topic to discuss with this tech club than passwords, because they are pretty central to our use of the internet. Um, so yeah, like I said, in this process, I learned a lot too. So I'm excited to share it with everyone.
Putting up the post to hold up the railing.
I'm going to go ahead and share this uh, slideshow with everyone, and then we can just
Okay.
follow along. Can everyone see that there?
Yes, I see
Okay.
it.
So we're just going to scroll down this document here. Um, all about passwords. LPL Tech Club.
Ooh,
So my first question, okay, is how many passwords do you need, and how complicated do they need to be? And I found myself not knowing the answer to this really. You know,
yeah.
there you hear uh, advice and a lot of advice to make really complicated passwords or create a lot of passwords. But then I got to wondering, how are passwords actually compromised? And what I mean by that is, what percentage of passwords are guessed by a person or a computer versus, okay, it's a, I'm just going to kind of read this slide here. So it's a common misconception that hackers need to guess your password or crack it using a computer. In reality, most passwords are lost through large scale breaches or scams, large scale data breaches. So, a few years ago, Equifax had a data breach and hackers broke into the credit bureau's database. So if your information is in a database for a company or a credit bureau or another large organization and it gets hacked, then there's nothing you can do about that. And it doesn't matter how strong your password is if a database that it is in gets compromised. So that's about 70% of compromised passwords, the best I could tell from my research. And I thought that was very interesting. Um, so that's the most common way. And they're not guessing it. They have it because there are millions of credentials leaked from major site breaches. And then they use automated bots or, software and computers to try those passwords in a lot of different websites to see if they work. And that's called credential stuffing. So there's some terminology here, but that's not really that important. Just kind of fun. So password reuse is the real issue here because 94% of users reuse the same password across multiple sites, meaning one breach on a small site can compromise a lot of other sites, including maybe your email or your bank account. So and we'll come back to the main points here. Um, and then the second most common way that passwords are compromised are phishing and scams. So that's where attackers don't guess your password, you accidentally give it to them. So phishing is what you call it when there is a digital impersonation message, usually, with the goal of tricking you into giving away your login credentials or other personal information. So an email or a text or a Facebook message or a WhatsApp or any kind of messaging platform. So in 2026, email phishing is getting pretty sophisticated um, with AI-driven phishing being an attempt to steal your data or money by, whoops, this little slide's messed up here. Um, yeah, so they're an attempt to steal your money or your data by impersonating someone or an organization that you trust. So let's look at some red flags of phishing because this is an important part. So again, this is 20% of the way passwords are compromised are usually clicking. Well, we'll get to that. Usually a phishing email. So what to look for phishing emails, red flags. Number one is a problem or a prize, and urgency. So an unexpected email tries to get you to act before you have time to think about it. So these are the four things to watch out for. The message is unexpected. There's usually urgency, like you need to do this in 24 hours or something bad's going to happen. There's usually a problem or fear involved. Suspicious activity detected in your bank account, and your account will be deleted in 24 hours. Or maybe greed, like you've won $1,000 gift card. By the way, gift cards are always a red flag if you hear anything about gift cards. So, um, so those are almost always the hallmarks of phishing. So anytime you see those aspects of an unexpected message, then you should be suspicious. So, um, the other aspect of phishing is fake websites. So hackers try to look official by using branding you recognize and creating look-alike domains like google.com or wellsfargo.com. I'm going to skip to this next one here. Actually, so is becoming increasingly difficult to tell um, when you're on an illegitimate site. So it's always best just to if you have those hallmarks of a phishing email to just go to a separate site in Google, go to open up a different tab. Let's see here. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Um, yeah, so if an email asks you to do something urgent or provide info, never click the link. Instead, close the email, open your browser, and navigate directly to the website yourself, or by Googling, search for it in the search engine, and search wellsfargo.com manually, or call the person on a known phone number. Um, and we'll go back and cover a few more things that you should watch out for. QR codes. Don't scan QR codes in unexpected messages. and look for generic greetings like dear customer or valued member instead of your actual name. And typos and bad English are always a red flag as well. And there's also commonly a login link or a file to download. Um, so a link is a button that'll take you to that fake website where you unknowingly enter your credentials, giving a hacker your access to your account. And an attachment would be like a PDF or a Word doc or an application that contains info stealer malware. This is the most common method, and if you accidentally download a malicious file, often disguised as a software or an email attachment, um, that software scans your browser's local storage files and uploads all your saved cookies to the hacker's server. So it gets a little complicated there, but it's we're going to go over that. So this is kind of getting a little bit long-winded on this part because I definitely wanted to cover this. But again, I'm going to go back up to the top here because the reality is 70% of passwords are lost in large data breaches. So you can't do anything about that. So the complexity of your password and the length of your password don't really matter in that scenario. But reusing your passwords kind of does. And then phishing and scams where you accidentally give your password to someone else is another 20%. Okay, so that only leaves about 10% is what you call in computer world brute force or password guessing or trying to crack a password with a computer. So targeting an individual by trying every possible combination is rare because it is slow and easily blocked by most modern websites, which lock you out after 5 to 10 or so many failed attempts. Um, there's also, actually, I'm going to talk about that right now. Those are called lockout rules. So those are an impediment to hackers because if they try a password too many times, then the websites usually have a rate limiting speed bump that slows down how fast you can make attempts. So if someone's using a computer to try to crack a password, the
Okay.
website won't allow it. And then there's also attempt limiting, which is account lockout, which limits how many times your password can be tried before you're locked out of your account and you need to wait until tomorrow or wait 30 minutes or wait an hour. It's very frustrating when it happens to you, the legitimate owner of the account, but that's why those exist, is to keep people with computers from trying to crack a password on a website. And then there's two-factor authentication, which we're all pretty familiar with, I think, nowadays, where a website will need to send a code to your phone as a second method of authentication so you can log in. So then you start thinking, well, how does anyone ever get a password hacked? Because between those impediments and then the two-factor authentication where they have to send the code to your phone, it must be pretty much impossible. Um, and it's not impossible, but it is a lot more rare. It's not really what we're concerned with. The password spray twist is what we're calling it. That is where a hacker would try, instead of trying 1,000 different passwords for one user, like just targeting your account. And you're probably not, honestly, not that important for someone to spend that much time targeting one account. But what they do, Microsoft says it's 97% of identity attacks are where they take one common password, like password 123, and they try it against 1,000 or 1,000,000 different usernames. So it's kind of backwards what you think. They're not trying a bunch of passwords. They're trying one common password across 1,000,000 different people's different emails. So in that scenario, the lesson to be learned is don't use a very common password like password 123. Um, I'm not sure. I just jumped right into it today, but I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty serious topic. So thank you all for bearing with me here. So I'm gonna swap over, if you don't mind, to a document because I actually, to be totally honest, I was creating this slideshow and it didn't turn out as well. I was trying to use an AI tool to create this slideshow, and it took longer than I thought it was going to take. And so I'm going to actually open up a document and read from that because that was my source material in
Okay.
this
That's great.
slideshow.
And I'm reassured already that nobody's sitting around trying every possible combination in the world to get into my bank account.
Hmm.
Even though I often use my nickname, I use my birth year. I mean, maybe some other people listening in or have that same thing. I use a phrase. I always use an exclamation point because I'm an enthusiast. I mean, I'm pretty easy to guess, but I don't, nobody's going to hit the bonanza when they get into my bank account or,
Yeah, I mean it's
yeah. So that's
it
reassuring.
it is a very interesting um it's very interesting, and this is why it's kind of fascinating to me because this may be a little controversial, and I just work at a library.
Good.
So I'm not a cybersecurity analyst or specialist, but the 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 information or the advice that I'm trying to give is realistic advice for regular people. And I think that some of these things get approached from a very maximalist position. And it's like if you ask um, a security company that does home security systems whether you should have an alarm system on your house. They're going to definitely say, yes, you do. And then if you ask them, do I need a different key to get into every door of my house? They might even say, yeah, that would be great. But there's always a balance of security and convenience. And so maybe not everyone has an alarm system on their house, or maybe everyone doesn't have bars on their windows. So but if you were talking to a security company, they might recommend all of those maximalist things. So if you're talking to a security expert for internet security, then they might recommend the most maximalist approach. So we're going to talk about some of the things I think are the most realistic approaches in a moment here. Um, I'm going to swap over to a document. This is going to be a little boring looking. It's just going to be a white document on the page, but I think it's going
That-
to be laid out a little bit better than that slideshow was.
What did you call that? Password spray?
Yeah,
I
password
love that.
spraying is just what they call it when you try the same password on 1,000 different websites. Yeah. Um,
Well, it makes
yeah,
sense if I was the guy doing it.
yeah.
Maybe I'll get lucky. Kind of
Yep.
like buying a scratch card.
But it makes more sense when you think about it. It's more efficient to do it that way.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So I'm going to share this real quick. Okay. Can everyone see this document here?
Yes. Slide
Okay.
11.
Yep, slide 11. So this is
Okay.
going to be a pretty dry document, but what I was this is going to get a little, we've had AI classes and we've talked about that a little bit. And what I was doing before this class is I created a document with all of my information in it. And
Uh-huh.
each page is a different topic. And then what I was attempting to do is make a slideshow, have AI make a slideshow out of this to make it a little prettier. But I edited it all afternoon and revised it down and made it better. And then I didn't hit refresh. I forgot to hit refresh so that this AI tool would get the newest version of the document.
Oh,
So
no.
it spent 30 minutes generating this document right before this class, and then it was longer than I thought. And then it actually used my unrevised material, which was close, and that's what I was trying to go off of. So sorry, that was a little in the weeds, but this document is not very pretty, but I think it's going to be easier to follow for everyone.
Well, it's nice to hear that an expert makes mistakes
Oh,
because I do
absolutely.
that all the time.
Yep, absolutely. So what have we learned so far? We've learned that password complexity is not the main issue. The real problems are reusing passwords, especially, this is important, your email password or your Apple ID password across multiple websites. So if one site is compromised, they all are.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to use a different password on every single site. It just means do not use your email password or your Apple ID password other places. And there might be some other very important sites too. We'll go over that. Number two, clicking on untrusted links and entering your credentials. So that'd be the phishing emails we were talking about. So if you enter your credentials into a hacker's fake website, then it doesn't matter how complicated it is or how long it is or how many of them you have. Number three, downloading untrusted software and attachments that can put software on your computer that can steal your browser's data and transmit it back.
Okay.
And so I think I'm gonna go, yeah, and the way that works is, let's scroll up a little bit. It steals your cookies, steals your session cookie is what it's called. So when you go to a website and you click keep me logged in, the
Oh,
website saves a session cookie or a VIP pass in your browser. And if the hacker steals your session cookie, they can stay logged in as you without needing a password or a two-factor authentication. So if you download a malicious software from a phishing email, um, then that's what can happen.
okay.
And I actually like to be specific there. If you click on an email that is a phishing email, that's you probably shouldn't do that. It's not recommended to do that, but the real thing you're trying not to do is click on a link to a fake website and enter in your password and your email, or download something and run it on your computer. But if you just look at an email, that's usually not a problem.
Okay.
It may actually make you get more emails like that if they can tell you opened it or something like that, but it's not going to steal all your passwords usually. It's mostly the problem is clicking on fake website links and accidentally entering your stuff or downloading software and running it on your computer that's malicious. So the fourth real problem is using common passwords like password 123. I think most of us kind of understand that at this point because a
Yeah.
computer can kind of guess that real fast.
Right. And I had a quick thing to say. I wondered about that because I think everybody who's listening in has seen the email which is entitled "This is our last attempt to contact you," or the your service will be immediately uh, declined unless you click. Oh, I always just say thank you, try again, good
It
try.
is it
But
is difficult.
sometimes you do open them, and
Mhm.
sometimes it'll say something that sounds a little funky. So you say fine, but don't click on anything. And there was a message or something here in the chat. See if I can't. Oop, I don't want to do that. I want to record. I'm recording. Um, I'll see if I can find it. You go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm looking for the chat as well.
Okay.
There it is.
Yay.
Okay, so the question is, as you said about security systems, there's so many offers to protect my identity. I'm a little leery about putting more institutions in charge of my sensitive information.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a whole other topic. I'd have to research
Wanda.
that one for an entire half of an entire day to really be knowledgeable about that. Um, it is mostly our experience here at the tech desk that like the Norton and the McAfee and the things like that, like, and then the LifeLock and the identity proof things. I don't really know too much about the LifeLock stuff, but if you don't do the things that we just talked about, then you don't need those as much. It's like
Oh,
you need those products if you're accidentally clicking on sketchy software, downloading it, running on your computer, and it tries to protect you. It's another layer of protection. But ideally, the goal is to not do those things in the first place. So those companies are like yet another layer of protection if you do make a mistake.
mhm. Someone asks, on phishing email, is it effective to take action to block or report spam on the
Yes.
email? Okay,
Yep. There's usually a button in your email that'll do that. So you can just
right.
block and report spam. Yeah. That helps the email companies know what that is and they try to filter it out. But there's still more. But they have, it's like a tug of war going on. It's a war in those email bo inboxes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share again. Back to the old document. And I'm gonna send out um a nice version of this. That version I was trying to read from was kind of jumbled.
Great. I will pass that out.
Okay, so this is a bonus. Since we're just getting at a few questions there and we were getting a little bit in the weeds, if y'all bear with me, I'm gonna get in the weeds just a little bit because this is just kind of interesting.
Okay.
But it's a little hard to follow. And this stuff is complicated. That's if it wasn't complicated, then everybody would be stealing everyone's passwords. It's really difficult and it's really complicated and hard to understand. So it's
Okay.
okay if it's a little hard to understand for everybody. Um, so how can hackers bypass two-step authentication? Because if you have to get a code to your phone, then how could anyone ever guess your password because they don't have your phone in their hand, right?
Hmm.
Well, if you click on a phishing link and go to a fake website, I'm just going to read this because it's too hard to explain. The hacker builds a fake login page that acts as a bridge, forwarding your password and your one-time multi-factor authentication code to the real site in real time. So the hacker logs in as you before the code expires. So I'll go step by step what that would look like.
Okay.
So what you see is you click on a link and it goes to a fake website. Um, yeah. So that hacker's site requests the real login page from Microsoft and mirrors it back to you. So every logo, font, and background image is the real thing because the hacker's site is literally fetching them from Microsoft in that second. So it looks identical. But the difference is the URL at the very top, the website address is slightly different or slightly off.
Right.
So it might have a different word or a letter or different number or a letter or a dash in it than it should have. And that's difficult to know. It's not it's difficult to always try to check that. And it's even harder on a phone when you're not really looking at the URL as easily as you do in a web browser on a computer.
Okay.
So you type in your username and password, and the hacker's bridge site captures them and immediately passes them on to the real site. And then Microsoft sees that and says, great, now enter your multi-factor authentication code, and it sends the real code to your phone. And then you type that into the fake hacker website. And then that website, that bridge website grabs that code and enters it into the real Microsoft page before it expires, and then they log in as you immediately. So it's kind of hard to understand, but
Very tricky.
yeah, it's the fake website is just a go-between, and it's actually using the real website to log them in real time. And
Okay.
so then Microsoft would issue a session cookie or a VIP pass to the hacker's bridge site, and then they can now stay logged into your account even if you change your password because the website thinks that they're the authenticated user. So that was a kind of gets pretty deep there, but it is kind of interesting that even with these codes to your phone,
There's
there,
a way.
yeah, there's a way. So there's always, like I said, it's kind of a
There's a
battle.
question also in the weeds, maybe in a cave. I've been notified that my email address was found on the dark web. How much risk is there? Do I need to change my email address? I mean, if I saw, I don't know. If
That
I
is a
saw
good
that message,
question.
I would
Um,
wonder if that was even true.
I'm gonna have to look into that because I would actually I would like to know that myself too. And I didn't research that for this class, so I have the same problem. I get those same messages, and I have some sites that I haven't changed my password on because they're not very important websites. And and I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna try to follow up with that.
And maybe you could help out babes in the woods like me, or the weeds, babes
Hmm.
in the weeds. What exactly is the dark web, if I could ask that question?
Well,
Things I shouldn't understand, things I don't know.
yeah, I guess, I can't confidently answer that either because I've never
Okay,
taken part in that. But I
perhaps this is
assume it's just
scary.
it's a term for, the illegal side of the internet
Yeah.
that isn't public and that you don't readily see unless you know exactly how to get to that, you know. So it's but for, computer professionals to access. Um, so it's just kind of but that's kind of about all I know. So yeah, like dark web means it's not just on a web, like a publicly hosted website for everyone to look at your email. It's somewhere that's not accessible to most people. But um, yeah, so like that password spraying example, if your
Yeah.
email was on the dark web, the people might not have your password and they might not be able to gain access to your account, but they might use your email to try password 123 and password 123 1 2 3 4 and password 1 2 3 4 5 against. So if your email was on the dark web and you had a really easy to crack password, that might be kind of a bad combination. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your accounts are compromised. But the best practices would say you go through and change your passwords, but and that's I should probably recommend that, but yeah, I would say change them for very important websites. Um,
And somebody chimes in, they have your social security number.
yeah, that unfortunately I don't know enough about to really give advice on either. Yeah, as far as the entire, you know, all of the identity, not just your password, but social security and identity theft type issues. I'll have to maybe research some more on that for next time.
I'm so old, my Kansas driver's license number was my social security number.
Yeah, I remember when people started changing those. I made mine different at some point because that way it was not the
Oops.
same number.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're getting into the good stuff. I'm sorry I
Yay.
wasn't able to answer those questions very confidently, but we always have more material
That's
um, for another time. I wish it was easier to just tell everyone all the answers. Um, so how should you create passwords then? And the first thing is length over complexity. And this is one of the biggest things that I learned because I sort of knew this, but it's been interesting. So a long, simple phrase is harder to crack than a short, complex one. And this is because every additional character increases the possible combinations exponentially. So from what the internet tells me, this this is a 12 RTX 5090 rigs, which I don't even know what that is. It's just a big computer. A big computer trying to crack a 8 character password that has uppercase, lowercase, and numbers and symbols would take about 5 hours. But then if you had a password that's just 11 characters, lowercase, it takes 15 hours. And then this is all very rough. And
okay.
then if you have a 13 character lowercase password, then it would take about 50 years. using the most powerful computers that we have. And if you have an 18 character lowercase password, it would take trillions of years. So there's an exponential uh, gain that's happening there. And I just thought this is very interesting because a lot of websites are kind of outdated, where they ask for the character and
Yes.
or the symbols and the numbers. But if you at work, we use a password manager. Here at the library, we use a password manager called Bitwarden. And when it sends you a master password, it's a passphrase. That's four long words.
Mm.
It's and that is actually the strongest password is a long um, one long password. And we'll talk about exactly how to make those. So um, that's called a passphrase. So there's kind of two tips that I have for making passwords that you can remember. Number one is the password phrase technique that we're talking about here. And that's three or four. Again, the experts would tell you four or five or six words. Now, we already discussed that less than 10% of your compromised passwords come from guessing passwords. So how long you want to make this password is kind of up to you. But going back to this chart, maybe 10, 11, 12, 15 characters, something like that. And so that might mean three or four seemingly unrelated lowercase words. And do not use a common phrase. So they need to be kind of seemingly unrelated. Um, and these would be good for the highest security sites like your email and your Apple ID and your bank information. But even the bank, I started looking into that. Like, what can someone do if they get your bank login to your bank app? And from what I could understand, even that might not be that easy, right? Because if someone has your bank information, they might try to transfer all your money out to a brand new account. But then the bank that's gonna raise a red flag with the bank. And the bank's gonna say, well, we don't even know what you just created this account yesterday. Do you want to transfer all your money out of it? And they have limits on sometimes how much money you can transfer or how quickly, or they put a hold on it. And they have systems in place. So really, often the most critical sites are your email because, oh, we'll talk about all this. I have it on another slide. Your email and your Apple ID.
Okay.
Um, and then these three or four letter words, they create a mental story that is easy for humans to remember, but random for a computer.
Could you give an example? Could you pick one up off the top of your head?
Yeah, so here's a couple examples here. So Apple Bicycle Sunset Mountain, or another one that I keep thinking about is like a pink elephant ice skates or something
Okay.
like that. So they're not a sentence and they don't really make sense together, but it's something that you can remember. Like you might even be able to visualize. Um, and this says Apple Bicycle Sunset Mountain. You could say flower, bicycle, sunset mountain. And those are four of my favorite things. And you can have them. You can put a s- I'm not. It depends on what the website allows, because sometimes a website won't let you put spaces in there, but you could
Okay.
put a dash, or you could put nothing in between them and just string them together. But yeah, that's called a passphrase, and so it can be long, but yet kind of easy to remember, relatively easy to remember.
But that totally trips up a computer trying to figure it out.
Evidently, evidently, it's just as when it starts getting to that 12 to 15 character length, it's pretty much uncrackable in our lifetime right now.
Okay.
So, and I'll say one more thing that is really, I think this is important to note. Typing in those characters like exclamation symbols, and upper lowercase letters
Percent.
is really difficult on phones and tablets because of the way that those keyboards work and
Right.
hitting the shift button and then hitting the 1, 2, 3 button and
Mhm.
having to hit those in the right order. And then did you hit and sometimes when you're entering in your passwords, there's just black dots on the screen and you can't actually see what you're entering in. So sometimes they have eyeballs, a little eye
Right.
icon that you can click to see your passwords. So I always try to do that when I can, but sometimes
Right.
they don't even have that.
That's
So
true.
if you're trying to type in a password with a lot of characters on an iPad, and you can't see it, then you can very easily make typos 5 times in a row and get locked out of your account or think you forgot your password when you didn't forget your password. And so this is a really good tip because it's just easier to type on a phone or a tablet, which is what we're using most of the
A
time.
couple quick questions came up. Password phrase allows spaces, question mark? And then
Uh,
another person says, don't most sites require uppercase symbols and numbers?
yeah, I think a lot of them do.
A
So
lot of them do.
that's the
In my
unfortunate thing,
experience.
but I
Yeah.
think it is changing. I think it's beginning to change. So it's just something to look out for. Um, So that I would love to have that information, like if you could do this on Gmail, for instance. I don't actually know that. I could probably I might try to find that answer before the end of this class. But yeah, the space, I think evidently from my research, you're supposed to be able to do the space. But a lot of times you'll see it with these dashes in between. But you could do Apple period, bicycle period, sunset period. You could separate them with anything, or you could separate them with a number, and then they would actually increase the complexity. Apple 1, Bicycle 2, Sunset 3, Mountain 4, or something like that.
That we want to be really tricky and sneaky and secretive with our Apple ID and our email ID. Those are the really,
Well, you want to make sure that your Apple ID and your email, and I'm sure there are some other very important passwords that are similar to that, that those are decently lengthy.
lengthy.
That's kind of, but then, uh, but if you have a password like this, so this is the second technique, the acronym technique,
Oh,
where there are symbols and numbers. If you have a password like this, then that would work fine too. Because remember, we talked about 90% of the way your password gets compromised is not people guessing your password. So that's why we spent so much time talking about phishing, because accidentally entering your email into fake sites or downloading bad software is more prevalent than someone guessing your password because of the complexity.
right.
So I'm kind of trying to hit that home because it- I don't want people to worry too much about making super long passwords, making super complicated passwords. But to the extent that you're going to do that, these are good tips for how to do that,
Okay.
especially in your email and your Apple ID. So the acronym technique is you turn a personal, easy to remember sentence into a complex string. So you could use this for sites that require symbols and special characters, which is still a lot of them.
Yeah.
Um, and you can use this for less secure sites like shopping and streaming,
Okay.
or just in general, Honestly, for shopping and streaming, uh, if it doesn't make you, again, I'm not a maximalist with this stuff. It's a little controversial, but I mean, in the real world, you might just have lowercase and some numbers. If it's if it's if it's a website to something that doesn't have your payment information in there, like your Netflix account. So if you have a Netflix account and you need to type that into your TV sometimes, are you just going to stay logged in all the time? If that is like 6 digits, 8 digits, if someone hacks your Netflix account, your life isn't going to be really ruined that much. So it's just good to keep that in mind and focus on that email and that Apple ID and maybe your financial institutions. And
Okay.
I have a little chart about it in a second here.
Great.
Um, but this is a good tip for how to create them when you draw a blank. Whenever you said create a new password, so you could either so then you if you're signing up for a new account or website, which is like every day,
Okay.
you have to make a decision about coming up with something new on the spot or reusing an old one. Um, so one of the ways you come up with a new one is you say a phrase that's not common. Well, I guess it could be actually fairly common. And then you turn that into an abbreviated acronym.
Mm.
So I have two dogs named Buster and Rex would become IH2DN capital B A capital R exclamation point. I have two dogs named Buster and Rex. And so that looks random, but it's easier for you to remember. And it's also easier to just think to create to begin with because you just tend to draw a blank. And it's like, what am I going to make a password? What new password should I make? So I could
Mhm.
look around my office and say, there are four white walls in here and just make a password out of that if that was something that was important to me. So that way you could even, use your children's name or your birthday or something like that, but it wouldn't be so easy to guess. Like I have two children named this and this. Would You could turn that into an acronym password and it would look totally random to anyone else.
Or spelling your name backwards.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That might be easy for a computer to crack that one. I don't know. I'm not a hacker, so I don't, I don't,
But we need to get a hacker on here.
I know. Yeah, that would be next level tech club.
Help us out.
I
We'll have to
just got to
check the
start
dark web. We'll look on
hanging
the
out with
dark
more
web.
sketchy individuals. Okay. So hopefully those two techniques are useful. And like I said, I really like to reiterate that making super complicated passwords isn't uh, always necessary if the site isn't super important. But these are two tips, like making a passphrase with 3 or 4 words or making an acronym where a sentence turns into an acronym. All right. Now, has anyone seen passkeys?
Yes, I have. I'm sure
Yeah.
we all have.
Yeah. Well, I can barely explain it myself, but I'm going to give it a shot. So, um, what are passkeys? A passkey is a digital key. It's a digital code or a key that is stored safely on your device. So it's stored on your computer or on your phone rather than passwords are in your head and you have to enter them in. But this would be a code that is on your phone. And then to log in, the website sends a challenge code to your phone in the background, kind of, and you unlock the solution using your Face ID or your fingerprint, or maybe even a number code on your phone. So it's kind of like, seems like you're kind of doing the same thing, but instead of a password, usually when you set up a passkey, it'll ask you to set up your Face ID or a fingerprint. And then it uses that to tie your phone to the website. Okay, so the distinctions are kind of small but important. Um, so passkeys are replacing passwords and are the strongest security method available right now. So this is where it kind of I think it makes a little bit more sense. So the advantages of a pass key.
Okay.
There's passcodes, there's pass keys, there's passwords, there's pass phrases. So it's a lot to keep up with. The advantages of a passkey is there's no secret to steal. So no one can steal it because there is nothing to steal. They can't get that code off of your phone. There's
Or your
nothing,
finger, your face. It's only yours.
right? I guess, you could be held hostage or something like that, but and there is no password or multi-factor authentication code for a hacker to intercept, is another way to put that. And so then the phishing risk is zero because the passkey will only work with real websites because it knows the difference. So if you land on a fake website, your phone will recognize that the address is wrong and it won't even try to log in. So a passkey will prevent you from making phishing errors and accidentally.
Oh,
So there is a patron. I mean, there's more than one. There's a few patrons that I've helped at the library. Um, and everyone struggles with this with remembering passwords. But as we age, we can struggle with remembering passwords even more. And I've helped them set up pass keys on their computer so that when they put their thumb on there, their finger on there, it'll log them into their computer and their email. And that can be pretty nice. But there's some downsides. There's always downsides. So
Yes.
the first downside is it's tied to your physical hardware, to your phone or your computer. So if you lose your device and you haven't set up a recovery method, then you could be locked out of everything. If you just don't set up a recovery method and then have your laptop stolen, because your pass key is on your laptop. So then you can't just, so using other people's devices is more difficult. You can't just go to a computer and log in from another computer. But sometimes right now that you can do both. You can have a password and a pass key, so it's kind of confusing.
Mhm.
And then also biometrics like Face ID and fingerprints don't always work as fluid as and you, they don't always work fluidly, so you still may need to enter a code.
I,
So,
I, I've got that here on my laptop from the library. I put
hmm
my finger, and I've noticed if my finger is cold
yep, me too.
or wet or
Yep.
has frosting on it, I
Yeah,
will,
it gets cold, shriveled up, and then it doesn't work
it
on the,
doesn't
and so
work, and
then
then
then it
I
makes
have,
you type in a code anyway.
yeah, I have to
So,
use a code. Yeah. There's a
so
quick question here. Is the Authenticator app more like a pass key or like the two-factor authentication?
man, that's a hard one.
Authenticator app, I've not
Well,
heard.
that's a Microsoft app. We use that one here at the
Okay.
library. And uh that is a good question. It's kind of like a combination of both is the way I think of it. Because if I go the way we have it set up here, and again, it's just such a big topic. If I go to log into a different computer than I usually log into, it will make me open up the Microsoft Authenticator app on my phone, and then it puts a number is in that app, and then I type that number into the website, and then I also have to look at my phone to get my Face ID the whole time as I do that, and I still have to enter in my password. So I have to enter my email, my password, my Face ID, and a code for my phone. Like, wow. So it is. We're it can be pretty intense.
Ours
So
is.
it's kind of like both of those things. It's doing. I think that's more like the multi-factor authentication, but it's doing like that's why they call it multi-factor authentication. So it's email, password, and then code and face. So it's not just two-factor, it's multi-factor.
That's a lot. There's a kind of an amusing question here. Do you watch crime shows? They press the thumb of a dead or unconscious person to access their phone.
Well, but they might be too shriveled up. And if they're too shriveled up, then they'll have to type in a code.
How long have they been lying there?
Yep.
And then
Oh, I
this
think I've seen
person,
a movie where this is getting a little morbid, but I think I've seen a movie where they kind of rehydrate,
oh
they
God.
rehydrate the
Uh,
fingers. So,
People who make that up need to get out more. And here's, does it transfer if I have Microsoft computer and Apple phone?
um,
Does it transfer if I have a
that's
Microsoft computer and Apple?
well, you can keep asking. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, then I'll get back to it so we don't run out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Microsoft computer and an Apple phone, and all this is applicable. And then I use the Authenticator app from
Oh,
Microsoft on my Apple phone, so it all works together. It just may be kind of a pain to set up,
okay.
but it does all apply. Okay, so I'm gonna go back one more time to my dry document here, and then also, with the passkeys, not every website does passkeys yet. So you still have to have a bunch of passwords. So
Right.
we're kind of in the middle ground
We are.
here as far as that goes.
Some of
Man,
us
there's
have
even,
horses and some of us have cars.
yeah. So there's even the topic, I didn't even include this. There's even little USB keys that you can put in your computer and save all your password to a little thumb drive. That's a
Mhm.
whole nother thing. But that's more for like most of the time people that use that are people that are kind of real savvy about computers, even though it's not difficult. But I didn't include that, but maybe I should. If people want to learn about that, we can. So what about password managers? Password managers are the most secure way to deal with passwords, but they aren't always the most convenient. They can be once you get them set up, but the advantages are there's only one strong passphrase to remember. So you do remember a 4 or 6 word passphrase. And then kind of like the passkey, it protects you from phishing because the password manager, which is a password manager, is an app on your phone that stores all your passwords, or a browser extension on your computer, or an app on your computer that stores all your passwords. And that application won't let you sign into fake websites because it knows the difference, kind of like a passkey. So those are the advantages of the password manager. But then the downside is there's a single point of failure. So if a user loses their master password, um, there's usually no forgot password link because even the company itself can't see that data. So it's very secure, but that comes with some downsides. So that could risk total data loss. And most managers now offer emergency access or recovery kits, but these require setup beforehand. So kind of like the passkey, you have to set up a recovery thing. And if you don't have that set up, then you could lose access to everything. So if someone was, beginning to struggle with their memory, um, a password manager might not be the best idea because if they lose track of that one password, then that could be kind of catastrophic.
That's true. I
Um,
I write mine down.
we're going to get to that too.
Okay,
So,
well, okay,
and
we
then,
may
and
have
then,
to have a part two of this
yeah, I know.
conversation.
I think I got like one more slide. So, and password managers also cost money and they're also complex to set up at the beginning. And they're kind of, all this stuff's just a little more confusing.
Okay.
So this is the bucket strategy. So this is kind of the main one of the main takeaways. So
But Erica,
this is kind of recommended by experts that aren't maximalists about passwords.
okay.
Password bucket strategy, a balance of security and convenience. So maybe you have your email and it's critical, and you use a strong password for that. And then you have your Apple ID and it is critical and you use a strong password for that. In your email, the reason it's critical is because if it's hacked, a hacker can reset other passwords from other sites because they're getting that authentication code to your email. So they can use your email to reset other things. And then your Apple ID is critical because it's central to all of your iPhone and your iPads and your Mac computers. So someone can gain access to your iCloud and every photo and video you have and all your text messages, and they could send text messages as you, and they could use Find My to see where all your phones are, and they can use Apple Pay, which might have your stored credit card. So Apple ID is a big one. Um, a- and then banking, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how critical banking is. I'd put it medium, because banks do have some uh, safeguards in place. So you'd use a different password for banking stuff. I mean, even if you have a few different bank sites, maybe you could use the same password for several different bank sites. It's kind of up to you, but these are the different buckets. And then social media is like pretty high, high to high medium. And then, and I'll send this out. And then shopping and streaming are like low. Now,
Okay.
shopping seems like it would be high, but these sites have encrypted credit card information in there. So even if someone gets your J.Crew login and logs in to try to buy something from the Gap or whatever, they can't necessarily see your credit card information in there.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of one of the main takeaways is a different unique password that is strong for your email and your Apple ID, and then a different one for banking, and a different one for social media, and a different one for low security sites like shopping and streaming, and a ton of other ones.
Okay.
So that way maybe you end up with five, six passwords, and it's at least a little bit manageable.
It is.
And this is the last slide. Is it okay to write them down? And it's a little controversial, like I said, because I'm not a total maximalist, but I say yes. We help people every day at the library, and that's the most straightforward way for them to remember it. Um, and again, for most people, the threat is hackers that you've never met, not people who might find your password book. So someone could obviously, a friend or family in your house could look at your password book, or you could, have a thief break in your house and steal your password book. But then that thief would have to know, they'd have to be a hacker or have to sell it to a hacker. But what we're mostly concerned with is, hackers may be on the other side of the world with a computer trying to, and so that's, I'm trying to put it all in context. So I
Right.
think that it's a pretty low risk. And then you can write your passwords in two duplicate notebooks. That would be, amazing. Because then if you lose one or one gets wet or something, it's not recommended to write down passwords in an email or a Word document or a Google document because then it's online. If someone hacks into your email, they might find all your passwords. So that's kind of common that people do that, and that's less secure for sure. Because if you break into someone's email, you could just search passwords and like find a document with all their passwords.
Okay. Don't want to do that.
The last thing I'll say is if you do make a tech one-on-one appointment at the library and you bring your password book, just be careful not to lose it in public on the ground at the library. That is a little bit tough because you want to bring them
Right.
to a tech one-on-one, but you don't want to lose it. So it's important then.
There's a couple of questions over here in the chat. We could probably get through quickly. What if the password manager is hacked, like the credit reporting agency?
Mm. I think in my research, I was reading that that happened to one of them once. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think
Okay.
it's very, very rare because that's
Yes.
their entire business. And it is for the credit bureau too. But that's why it was such big news is because it's so rare.
Yeah, it
So I
is.
think it's exceedingly rare.
Okay. And someone asks, what about like when Google suggests the password and remembers passwords?
So that gets into that. Yeah, it remembers it in your browser and it remembers it in your cookies of your browser. So
Right.
that's totally fine as long as someone doesn't get your computer or that session cookie problem we were talking about. If you download a bad software that then uploads that code from your browser to the hacker, and they can get in because they think
Okay.
it's their browser. That's didn't do a good job of explaining that. But for
It's
but for but
browser.
for most people, I would just say, yeah, I mean that's a good balance of security and convenience. Go ahead and have Google Chrome remember your passwords, and then do your absolute best not to click on any website that's suspicious. Go to the website separately if you're at all suspicious.
Yes. And then, and this is a nice way to end. Well, tell us more about Tech one-on-one appointments.
Good question. I'm sorry I don't do a better job of promoting
That's
these,
okay.
but
That's all right.
Monday through Thursday at 1:30 and 4, we do technology one-on-one appointments. So if you have a question or you're struggling with something, we can try to help you out with your phone or with your computer. There's so much to know that we don't know everything, and we can't really fix like a broken phone or anything like that, but we can definitely give you a second opinion on stuff, and we can definitely like show you how to use library resources like Libby, um, and we can show you how to get started with like a new iPhone, and show you
Yeah.
how to organize your files and how to free up space, stuff like that.
Right. And if some of us don't have an 11-year-old grandchild who likes to do those things for us, you can help us out. And I've
Hmm.
got to do a testimonial. I was trying to sell some K-State basketball t football tickets on StubHub or something, and those people went to the wall for me. They were really wonderful to help.
Oh yeah, we
Just
definitely help some people with StubHub and KU tickets for sure.
really, really
Yep.
confusing. They
Yeah, it
wouldn't
is with the
upload, they wouldn't
wallet.
download. I was flummoxed. And the last question,
Yes.
how do we clear those browser passwords?
Well, yeah, in your browsers there is a setting where it'll say cleared history, and it'll have different things, have check boxes of different things you can clear.
Mhm.
And I think you can clear out those passwords. Like I said, you can, yeah, you can go in and even edit the passwords. But like one of the takeaways here is everything has some risk. And so I store the browser passwords most of the time, actually all the time, because I have just too many. I don't write them down. I probably have 300. So um, I store them. Um, And so I don't know that you need to delete them, but yeah, you can go into the settings and you can do that. But it's also useful to remember them because they're actually in there. So there's a question here that I want to touch on. Is it safe to use the memo or reminder apps and to save passwords in iPhones? Uh, medium. I mean, if someone gets your phone and or if they get into your phone, then they would tell your passwords. But again, it's kind of like writing them down, isn't it? Because it would have to be, you'd have to have lost your phone and then a malicious person be able to get in there. I wouldn't write it down if you don't have a passcode on your phone. Like some people use their phone without passcode and they just swipe up and it's open all the time. I wouldn't write them down in that scenario. I dropped my phone in the street out here one time on Kentucky and the security guards brought it to me and I didn't realize it fell out of my pocket in the street. So,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I mean, you could if you locked your iPhone with a passcode or your Face ID. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
This has been quite a session. We might have to do another.
Like I said, I was kind of excited about it. I'm sorry for just kind of
No,
going off for an hour, but
no,
I think it
I
is.
think we appreciate it. I think we're all a little vexed by passwords and having you hit them all. Coming up with one on the spot when you're already frustrated by the cost or the whole procedure, whatever. Anyway, a couple people are saying thank you so much. Great job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you get me that, oh, the thumbs up and clapping hands are flying. So
I'm just trying to give some real world advice here,
I think that makes
That's
sense. And I've got to say, I'm rather uh, comforted that you don't know everything because
yeah.
you're the expert and it's an evolving field and it'll come together someday, but we don't know when. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and your good spirits and your jokes and also your questions because they did help us clarify things. And I guess we'll see you at the next Tech Club next month. But thanks for being here. Thank you so much, Jim. Thanks for your time.
You're
And
welcome.
thanks everybody for being with us. And we'll see you at another Tech Club if we know
Bye.
the password. Okay.
Mhm.
Bye, everybody.